Before we get started, please click the link below to support our sponsor, goldsilver.com. That's goldsilver.com. They are the only resource for all of your precious metals, gold and silver needs. Again, click that link below right now. That's goldsilver.com. Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green. You're tuning into AMTV, Alternative Media Television. So I was deeply saddened over the weekend to see ESPN and the mainstream media cover the 10-year anniversary of the murder of Pat Tillman. And it honestly made me sick to my stomach, not to just see them grossly misdirect the audience and mislead the millions of people probably tuning in, but also that they had to blasphemize him on Easter. Pat Tillman, somebody that I believe to be a hero, a war hero. And although he went to Iraq and Afghanistan and then died in Afghanistan fighting for something that he believed in, he was sold as a lie to the American people by the U.S. federal government. A gross pro-war propaganda lie that people at the upper echelon of Washington, D.C., sitting in their ivory towers, knew was a lie. And the host of co-conspirators, everybody from four-star generals, from General Stanley McChrystal on up to the President of the United States and many others, blasphemizing the death of Pat Tillman. And you see, what ESPN won't get into is the real hardcore facts and truth, not only of that cover-up, but how it was a very convoluted, pre-planned web that many people believe was a likely assassination of Pat Tillman. Pat Tillman, who responded so heroically after the post-September 11, 2001 terror attacks and really throwing away a multi-million-dollar NFL career to go fight for something that he believed in. Later became grossly disillusioned with the wars, both in Iraq and Afghanistan, where he served. And had even made comments to friends and was quoted, I'm paraphrasing a bit, saying that these wars are so effing illegal. And then he died. He took 3 bullets from an M16 to the face, which is amazing in and of itself that there's that much accuracy regarding a mistake. There was literally one of the characters almost in tears during the interview over the lines on ESPN over the weekend. 3 gunshot wounds to the face. That's just unbelievable in itself, where the upper echelon of our leadership here put Pat Tillman in this precarious situation along with many others in a convoy, literally in a kill zone. Now, Pat Tillman, who was growing very disillusioned with the war at the time and had made comments such as, these wars are so effing illegal, was also likely to return to the United States as another 4-star general admitted, General Wesley Clark, in a later interview, an expose, said that Pat Tillman was to come back to the United States and literally become a vehement anti-war critic. And very likely was going to lead a counter-revolution here in the United States against the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And you can only imagine what a gigantic liability that was for the federal government and just the United States in general at a time when they were selling the con job of these illegal wars, something that Pat Tillman obviously saw the truth of, fighting on the front lines and throwing away an NFL contract and leaving his loved ones, his family members, his father, his brother Kevin, who was also enlisted, and his wife Marie, who were later sold a lie, a bold-faced lie to their faces, that Pat Tillman died from Durka Al-Qaeda, from the terrorists that we were allegedly fighting, when that was completely bullshit. It was an utter fabrication, it was a false pretense, and it was a lie sold again at the highest levels of the upper echelon of Washington, D.C., essentially blasphemizing Pat Tillman's legacy, only to find out later through investigative journalists and through a big push from his family, Pat Tillman's father actually telling some of these Army investigators to F off at the time, before there was an array of disclosures that came to light that proved that the federal government was the lying scumbag that we already knew it was. That they were using Pat Tillman's death again to sell a very unpopular war under false pretenses. And that's the point of the story ESPN will tell you about. You see, the striking point here is that the federal government is a lying psychopath. These people have lost their privilege in Washington, D.C. They've lost it completely. They no longer should have a right to run organizations, gross Orwellian organizations like the NSA, etc. They've lost that privilege, because they've proven themselves time and time again to be liars. Now, all of this, of course, is connected. Something else that ESPN didn't point out is that General Stanley McChrystal, who was responsible for overseeing everything that was happening in the Afghanistan war at the time, is also grossly and conveniently connected to Michael Hastings, another young buck. Tragically, at 33 years old, Pat Tillman, who was killed at 27 years old in Afghanistan. Now remember, Michael Hastings, who died in a fiery, conspiratorial car crash in a Mercedes that literally blew up into a ball of flames. Then his engine was thrown, hundreds of feet roughly out of his car, died. All of this, again, connected to this conspiracy that leads back to Pat Tillman. Michael Hastings, of course, a fearless journalist who came out with a scathing report in Rolling Stone, which led literally to the downfall of General Stanley McChrystal, a four-star general. He exposed in really scathing truth journalism and truth reports that the general had made comments, negative comments, scandalous comments about Obama, the president himself, the Obama administration, and White House staff, which later led to the push out of the general himself, Stanley McChrystal, being let go and essentially fired by the Obama administration. Michael Hastings literally single-handedly responsible for the axing of the general, who also, again, was responsible in overseeing Afghanistan and these wars during the same time, the same conspiracy and the same conspiratorial time that marked the death of Pat Tillman. Again, all of this connect. I mean, Pat Tillman was going to write books. He was going to maybe even run for president. Who knows? He was scheduled to meet with Noam Chomsky, a very well-known intellectual, author, and anti-war critic. He was going to meet with him after. I mean, all of this grossly connected, even admitted by a former general, four-star General Wesley Clark. And this is the part of the story that you're not going to be told. You're not going to hear about in the mainstream media. You're not going to hear about it exposed on ESPN. And the point being, again, is your government is a liar. They're a traitorous, deceitful enterprise. They really have lost, again, their executive privilege to govern. Here they are lying to Pat Tillman and his family and his loved ones and the American people and selling these wars on total deceit, fabrication, and false pretense, while at the same time pointing to people like Clive Bundy, American patriots, and labeling them like people like Harry Reid just mentioned as domestic terrorists. This is the government we're dealing with. And again, it makes me sick to my stomach. It makes me sick to my stomach that most Americans simply don't understand and they don't know the truth. And of course, we are seeing this play out right now in other gross illegal interventions like what we're seeing in Ukraine. Again, all of this a part of the larger conspiratorial game plan of lies, deceit, and really treason at the highest levels of the land. Hopefully this truth video on Pat Tillman, sheds some light. Hopefully it's a tribute to his legacy, somebody that I think many of us, including myself, admired. Admired his courage, his bravery, and his American patriotism. Things that I think that have largely been lost here in America, that is consumed by mainstream media propaganda, consumed by liars in Washington, D.C. that propagate misdirection and more lies and create a convoluted mess. This mainstream narrative that really loses all sense of self and, more importantly, truth. When that's all the American people should really care about. They should care about the truth, they should care about the real story, and they should demand it from everybody involved, not just ESPN, but mainstream and alternative media. I'm Christopher Green. Get it out everywhere, make it viral. Click the link below to support our sponsor.